and of itself, when you're being journalistically correct, you're not supposed to call it a murder yet, but the obvious murder of George Floyd, the fallout from that, and the impassioned pleas from people to be heard and to actually say, like, how many times you got to see this? How many times you got to see this?
Right.
Combined with coronavirus, because people were trapped inside for the longest time, and I think the media, with it, you can never gloss over the loss of life that was there. Like, I would never want to be misconstrued. The loss of life is tremendous, and that's a tragedy. But I think the media covered that out of context a lot of times, only focusing on those numbers rather than the bigger picture, and that just created a mind state of fear with people. So you have fear and frustration from that, and as soon as people are going outside, it's to protest what happened to the tragedy with George Floyd. And then you mentioned him, individual one. I don't like saying his name, much less calling him the president.
45 will do.
Yeah, he's not a leader. He's an instigator. He wants to see, you take some of even the conversations that are happening now. I could get more clicks and views on some of the videos or some of the articles I'm doing if I just all right, I'm coming out as strong as I possibly can on this thing. I've got to destroy Drew Brees on what he said about the national anthem. Like, I could get more clicks and views. But I feel like, because of my platform, I feel like a sense of responsibility, right? I mean, you guys know me. I speak out, even sometimes when it's hard, and it risks perhaps my standing with an employer, because some of these, I'm not speaking about any of my specific employers right now, just for the record, but with a so-and-so employer, because I think it's the right thing to do. At the same time, I do feel the objective of some of these people is to deflect, to cause unrest, to stir up controversy. That's why you got these white supremacists out there rioting, right? So they can blame it on the black people. And then you've got the bad faith actors who will then take whatever footage. Same thing as coronavirus, where coronavirus, 100,000 deaths, awful, terrible. How many cases were there? How many people were asymptomatic? You present that in the context, it gives you a better picture of the actual story. Same thing that's going on right now. Of all the people out on the streets, how many people are peaceful? How many people are expressing their constitutional right? The vast, vast majority. Then you take that smaller portion, and even of that smaller portion, a bunch of them are just, shit stirrers.
Yeah.
But they're getting the coverage, because that's what's going to get views. That's what's going to allow ratings, which is going to then lead to advertising dollars. So I do feel a sense of responsibility in a sense where, are we really going to debate the merits of the NFL protests now again? You know how many hours of talk radio I spent doing that? That's not accomplishing anything. If anything, that's taking away, that's diverting. Just like arguing about the looting, diverting. Same thing with that. So, and I think the president, that guy, he deliberately does this. He does not want peace. He does not want the citizens to be united, or he wants to pit citizens against each other, especially citizens who should be working toward the same thing, right? Like when Colin Kaepernick and Jay-Z, when there was that fight about them on Twitter, what is that accomplishing? Right? Like Colin Kaepernick was a symbol. What he did, the protest, will live forever in history. And now he's going about it his way. But Jay-Z's doing Jay-Z called up the governor of Minnesota to get Keith Ellison on this case, who then upped the charges on the cop and the cop involved. So I'm using that as an analogy, right? But when you have groups of people who ultimately want the same thing, but they wind up fighting amongst each other just as much as they're fighting the people who are the bad faith actors, that's only giving credence and fuel to guys like Trump, because that's what they want. That allows them to grab power, because they can consolidate their base and allow the rest of us to fight amongst ourselves when we should be working together.
Robin, let me ask you this to start, because you're a guy who's spoken out against different things, and I see it on Twitter all the time. But you are a white man speaking out against this. Has there been blowback against you for speaking out in support of Black Lives Matter, in support of equality, right? Which is just the basis of what we all want on the right side of things. Have you found that blowback, and how have you responded to that?
Yeah, I mean, look, I again, it comes back to, like, I think, if Black people don't have white allies in this, it's they're never going to get things accomplished because the system is the way it is. I get blowback from jackasses online. I don't care about whatever. That literally, like, I pay that no mind. I think the biggest blowback comes from the unspoken resistance. The people who don't say anything, or if you do, like, I don't know if you should say that because it's, like, the things that aren't direct, but keep you from getting the point across the way, and that's that ceiling that can't seem to be broken or cracked open, and I think some of that is fear, some of that is corporate money, and fear of a certain aspect, alienating a certain aspect that might be spending dollars. And it's funny because the opposite can be true. I mean, Ben and Jerry's, look at the statement they put out.
Yeah.
That's the kind of thing people will notice and then maybe go do. I went and did business with Ben and Jerry's that day. It was a cool moment. I was going out for a bike ride or whatnot, and I was getting one of these publicly rented bikes over here in Jersey. It's not the city bike, but same thing. And I'm walking to find one, and I run into some of my buddies, and we're right in front of Ben and Jerry's, and I hadn't seen them because of coronavirus, right? And I'm like, all right, are we allowed to touch? And we, like, embraced because it felt good to see each other and talk. And then I see Jerry's, I'm like, oh, wait a second. Like, I'm a white guy. We got two black guys right here. We got a Hispanic guy, because that's the the group of people that we were running with in this community. And I was like, oh, we gotta go to Ben and Jerry's. We gotta take a picture in front of Ben and Jerry's, because that's the moment to me, right? Like, that's what we're supposed to be doing. My problem is with people who aren't authentic about it. Because you could say, a lot of people like to say that there's two words that get used as shields: politics. So it's like, well, we don't talk politics. That's just, well, is it politics to say that people shouldn't be murdered?
Right.
It's not politics.
Just human decency.
Yeah. And then the other shield word is unity. Well, we need a unity, come together. Agreed. But how do we do it? In order to do that, people have to really believe in what they're saying. Otherwise, it's not like a magic word that makes it go away. And I think, we were unified in showing, hey, here's a group of people of all different backgrounds standing in front of Ben and Jerry's because ice cream is great, and Ben and Jerry's was like, nah, this ain't cool, son.
Right.
Yeah, and on the statements, I mean, it is true. You'll notice the ones that are very, very different. You'll notice, like, the Washington Wizards, for example. It seemed pretty obvious that they had players, or at least, people who really cared about this, instead of people who wanted to hide behind, the buzzwords like unity that you mentioned. The Wizards had a really good one. The LA Chargers put out an entire video, in sort of reacting to this and, going through the history of, Black people fighting for this and things like that. Dex, I think that we should really get your thoughts on everything that's been going on this week as well, because, I mean, we've talked about this over the phone yesterday, or was the day before. You have obviously strong feelings on this. You've been following what's going on.
Yeah.
And you haven't said a lot on social media, because I think you've probably been waiting for, a medium where you could have more space to get all your thoughts out there.
Yeah, obviously I echo what I think all of us feel here. And I think, Robin said a lot on it that I feel too. I think the leadership in this country has been absolutely disgusting through, and this is not just this year. This is going back to 2016. I think a lot of us knew. We probably never imagined it could come like this, but this has happened. I think Robin hit on this great point that when there's a lot of detraction going on, when you're not talking about the people who are out there, the majority of the people who are peacefully protesting. I have friends who are out here in Brooklyn peacefully protesting, going out in the streets, have been doing this for multiple marches and demonstrations across the years. But a lot of the attention gets focused on the negative, the looters, the people who are trying to infiltrate the movement. And I do not support the looting, right? However, I do think this system is not working. It has never worked for black people, ever, at all in this country. This country is founded on slavery. This country was built by black people who did it for free. And there's a lot of systemic racism and injustices that have come after that. And now what people are saying, it's crazy we have to say this, all of us, to make this clear, is that we want a better system. This system does not work for the people. And this is what people are out there protesting for. And I to some degree, I understand the people who are mad and are taking out in terms of looting. I think they need to direct their angers towards the people who loot from them, the government, Wall Street. That's exactly where you need to take that anger and direct that. And like Robin said, most of the people here are peaceful. But there's something I told Brian, Robin, and I'll say this too. As parents, we tell our kids a lot of times, hey, if somebody's bullying you, you want to go to the teacher, you tell them this, you might want to react a certain way. But at some point, you have to stand up to that bully. And that's what black people and our white allies and people of all races and backgrounds are doing right now in America. They're standing up to their bully. And that's the right thing to do. At some point, you got to punch them back in the face. And I'm not saying that to condone violence. I'm saying that to show a sense of strength here. And that's what I think needs to be done. And so that's my feelings in it. I'm somewhat encouraged by this, guys. I'm somewhat encouraged by people taking to the streets. I'm encouraged to see that people are upset. I'm empowered by our white allies like Robin Lundberg, who refuses to not stay silent and has never stayed silent on this matter. So this isn't like Robin just came to the party now and we're inviting him to the cookout. It's not like that. Robin's somebody who's been there, and we appreciate the white folks and brothers and sisters out there who've been doing that. But I think, this is about taking this fight seriously. This is going to be a long haul. This is going to be a long fight. And, I'm for it. I'm encouraged that America is saying, like, no, this is not what we want to have happen. Now, there are people against that are still fighting that. Like Robin said, there are people that are still going to try to divide us and detract us on that. But we got to stay strong. We got to stay strategic. And, it's a new day. And I'm glad to see that. Those are my thoughts.